Hey guys, welcome to Tyson's Fitness Tips podcast. If you want to lose weight, increase your energy, improve your health and fitness, and look your best, then you have come to the right place. My name is Tyson Brown. I'm a personal trainer and my job is to help you transform your body by sharing with you the most up-to-date information on health and fitness. I'm going to distill it all down for you into bite-sized actionable steps that you can take immediately to see results quickly. Now, every Tuesday and Thursday, you can expect a brand new episode, which will be a mixture of interviews with top experts from around the world in the fitness space, and as well as solo episodes from myself, sharing with you exactly what action steps you need to take to transform your health, your body, and your life. Also, don't forget to listen all the way to the end of the show, because in the middle, I'm going to share with you a time-saving tip, and it might just be a game changer. I know you're short on time, and this one can save you a lot of time and a lot of energy. So, let's get into the show. I think we are recording. Yep, cool. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Tyson's Fitness Tips. Now, today I've got a very special guest because it's actually the first dad who I'm going to bring on the show. This special dad is who I reached out to a while ago because I wanted to be on his podcast. And it turns out we have a fair few things in common. So I'm like, you know what, Alex, I've got to get you on my podcast. So I'd like to welcome Alex to the show. Alex, thanks so much for coming to join me. For the people who don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm Alex Vanhouten. I've been a trainer in the industry for just about 14 years. And I actually got into the industry on my way to medical school. And I realized that doctors didn't really like their jobs here in the States and patients didn't really like to be there. And so I continued in what was my passion, which was helping people reach their health and fitness goals. And so since then, I've had the opportunity to work with all kinds of people, kids, young adults, all the way up into the older people range. It really just depends on who you are and what your goal is. And I love to help people get there. And then also along the way, I've had the opportunity to educate trainers. And so my current project has been the Defining Dad Bod movement, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about in a bit. But in short, is really about helping parents leave a legacy of health and fitness for their kids, since they do what we do and not what we say.
Nice. And I think the reason I want to bring you on is because I realize that some of my audience are obviously parents, and I haven't really addressed that topic before, me being so young and not wanting kids yet. And it just hasn't been a topic, and I'm like, you know what, this would be awesome to talk about. So I think the first thing that I wanted to check in with you about is how do you stay consistent with exercise when it comes, while being a dad?
That's a great question. To begin with, when we first became parents, it was kind of like getting hit with a ton of bricks. It's almost impossible to explain to somebody who doesn't have kids what it feels like when all of a sudden you're not the star in your own movie anymore and somebody else is way more important than you in your own life. It's a very strange shift in your mindset. So when my son, Gabriel, was really, really young, my wife and I had a healthy regimen prior to him being born. But after he was born, it was kind of like, how do we figure this out? Who takes the baby? He's not going to hang out while you lift weights beside him, So how do we kind of mitigate that and whatnot? So I would say, the primary thing that has helped us stay consistent is really communication and a partnership between the two of us. She knows what my fitness goals are. I know what her fitness goals are. And we're both 100% supportive of making sure that both of us get the time that we need in order to make the exercise piece happen. And then on the other front, the consistency of the nutrition piece is highly important. And so obviously you can't exercise your way out of a bad diet, or at least I'm sure you've talked about that on your show. I've seen a lot of your content. So you're very up on that for sure. So with regard to that, my wife's a dietitian. So there's a life hack for you. If you haven't found a good gal, go find a dietitian wife.
Good idea.
But, even on that front, our nutrition goals are aligned there as well. So the consistency with regard to our nutrition, we have our breakfasts planned out, we have our dinners planned out, we have our lunches planned out, we have snack foods we both agree are good for both of us and good for our goals, And I'd say the biggest thing we do every week, is simple as it sounds, is we sit down every Sunday, we plan out the week together, and then one of us hits the grocery store, because shopping with a toddler is no fun.
Oh God, no. Yeah. I remember how much of a fun time I made it for my parents going through the shopping center with them, right? But one thing you said there about the communication aspect, like between you and your partner, I think
Mm.
that's really important because like I've coached people before saying, oh, like I say, get rid of your trigger foods, get rid of the foods that are bad for you. And like, oh, my wife, she likes, but they've got to be on the same path as you and be like, whether they go like take care of their health and fitness or not, they've got to be there to support you, right?
Absolutely. Well, and when you live with somebody, they kind of rub off on you, whether you like it or not. So if you're trying to do one thing and they're trying to do another thing, and neither of you are agreeing, like you try to cook 2 dinners, for instance. I've worked with clients in the past who are like, well, my husband won't eat that, so I've got to cook a whole nother dinner. I'm like, hey, bring him in here. Let's chat. Like, we gotta get you both on the same page. It's already hard enough to prepare enough meals for a family without having to cook 2 different things. So yeah, that's a huge piece, is getting everybody in the house on the same page. And it can be really as simple as sitting down and saying, hey, I have some fitness goals. This really matters to me. Here's why. And I want to support you and yours as well. And when that's out in the open, you start troubleshooting on how best to work that out in your lives.
Yeah, I really like that piece of advice. Like, sit down, even, you just, at the end of the day, you have to be honest with what you want. And you have a wife or a partner or whatever it is for a reason, right? Like they're there to support you on your journey.
Well, and yeah, when you're taking care of kids as well, it's important that not just the communication lines are open for health and fitness, but communication lines are open for parenting as well. And so when you open up the lines of communication, and let's say your health and fitness goals just don't align with being a good parent, like for instance, I train a client right now who, she's a mom, she wants to do a bikini competition. She gets extremely hangry for bikini prep, which is not great for her 3-year-old and 5-year-old. And so, that's something that's important for her and her husband to really work out. Hey, is this really your last competition here? And if it is, how can I, make sure that you don't take this out on the kids when you're starving yourself? Which, by the way, I don't like to do the bikini prep stuff. I'm there for the help afterward to make sure that you don't rebound too hard.
Absolutely. That's cool. And another thing you said there about the meal prep. So you guys dedicate a day to prepare, like you said, prepare for the week. So is that obviously including cooking meals and stuff like that too?
Yeah, if it needs to happen, if there's some lunches that need to be prepped, if there's some breakfasts that need to be prepped, or some snacks that need to be prepped ahead of time, when we get home, we make sure that it's all taken care of after the grocery store. So I always tell my clients, they're like, oh, I don't like to buy veggies. They always go bad. And so I'll ask them 2 questions. First, when you buy veggies, what do you do when you get home? They're like, oh, I put them in the pantry or put them on the counter. And then I'll say, did you watch TV that day? Well, yeah. Okay. Well, you have time to prep your veggies. It's just a matter of priorities. What I need you to do is, instead of turning on the TV, I need you to prep your veggies for the week. Chop up your peppers, chop up your onions, whatever it is that you need to do. So everything's ready for you during the week and nothing goes bad.
Good point. And I think another thing too, when it comes to prepping, like, we talk about fresh, right? We always want fresh vegetables, but you can buy frozen that will not go off. And so you've always got them there just in case, right?
Absolutely. Frozen veggies are a game changer in the world of parenting. Sometimes you got to throw dinner together in 15 minutes. So it's nice to pull out a bag of frozen okra or green beans or whatever it is and not have to go through the prep of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about energy levels, Alex? Like, obviously at the start, when you first had the child, it was obviously pretty hard with the waking up at night and stuff like that. So obviously you wouldn't always have top energy levels, but what were some ways you found to kind of, I don't know, keep your energy levels better than what most people do when they suffer with, sleepless nights and things like that?
Yeah, great question. I actually did an entire episode on my show recently called How to Work Out While Sleep Deprived. And it was geared solely to parents with a brand new baby in the house. So I highly recommend, if anybody's sleep deprived out there, go check that out. It's about, how to mitigate that time when, I'm sorry, the kid's just going to wake up every 2 or 3 hours, and there's really not a lot you can do about that. But outside of that, there's a couple things that you can do with regard to your energy levels. First, caffeine consumption can actually make everything way worse down the line. Now, I love my coffee. I see he's got Tyson with his coffee right there. I love my coffee, dude. Don't get me wrong. I didn't put it down. But generally, I will recommend to my clients, and I recommend to the dads that I work with regularly, don't consume caffeine after 12 p.m. Why not consume caffeine after 12 p.m., Alex? Well, in some people, everybody's metabolism is a little bit different from a genetic perspective, but in some people, caffeine can stay in your system for up to 12 hours. So if you're not sleeping well to begin with, and you try to go to bed at 9 p.m. because, hey, I need to get to bed early and I need to get in those deep stages of sleep. Well, even if you can get to sleep, because I know parents who are like, I'm so exhausted, but when I lay down, my mind's racing. You're like, when was the last time you drank caffeine in your day? And that can make a big difference on how racy your mind is. But secondly, if you do get to sleep, you won't get into the deeper stages of sleep. And what a lot of people don't understand about sleep is it's not necessarily how much sleep you get. The quantity kind of matters, but the quality, how deep you get. Do you get in the delta wave sleep, which is the really low wave sleep that actually shuts your brain down and lets your body recover? And then do you get into the REM sleep, which is kind of the dream cycle? And that's where your brain gets to recover from the day as well. And so if you've got caffeine in your system and you're a parent who's already not sleeping very well, then what happens to you is your sleep is way less restful. And so when you wake up the next morning, it's a vicious cycle. You have to depend on more and more caffeine to keep your energy levels up. And it really spirals people down. If you're listening to this and you're a parent and you can pinch a little more fat on your midsection than you're used to, then that is likely a result of that sleep deprivation cycle combined with a little overconsumption of caffeine. And the midsection weight gain is from cortisol.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, like, that doesn't just go for parents. Like, consuming caffeine after 12 or 2 o'clock, whatever it is, like you said, people take a long time to metabolize it, and it can affect your sleep. And a great way to actually see if it is if you still feel like you're getting your sleep, is get yourself a Fitbit or get yourself, I've got my Oura Ring, get something to track your sleep at night, and you can actually see, I'm not getting as deep a sleep. I mean, sure, it's not 100% accurate, but, at the end of the day, you can kind of have a look.
Absolutely. And then on the note of consistent energy, especially if you're in the sleep deprived stages of parenthood that you really can't get out of, from a weight training perspective, just to recap a little bit of the conversation that I had on my show recently, from a weight training perspective, if you can keep those bouts of weight training to about 30 minutes, and if you can use relatively high weight with relatively low reps and a nice amount of rest, that's called a high intensity low rep workout. So let's say we're doing like single arm rows, for instance. We're going to do 4 sets of 4 to 6 repetitions on each side with a nice heavy weight. And we're going to cut that workout off at 30 minutes. Why does that matter? Well, if we cut that workout off at 30 minutes, that maximizes our growth hormone, which is the recovery hormone that will help us in the nighttime to recover from our day, have more consistent energy the next day and whatnot. And it also cuts us off before you get the cortisol spike of a workout. And the cortisol spike of a workout is really beating the dead horse. It's making you less energetic every single day. So you might be burning calories in a workout if you try to do 60 minutes of cardio, 90 minutes of cardio. But as a parent, that's a degenerating game. Eventually, you're not going to make it past that point in time. And then once the baby's sleeping through the night and everybody's catching up on their sleep cycles and whatnot, then you can extend that workout time past 30 minutes.
Really good point there. And I also think, like you said, when it comes to parenting, just from my perspective, is that you really don't want to be focusing on trying to build muscle in that time, because you will be sleep deprived. But if you can do something and then it's going to maintain your strength and your muscle mass, at least you're not going to be losing any muscle during that time either.
Right, absolutely. And, there's some hope for these parents out here. Hypertrophy is epigenetic, or at least there's some studies around that. And just to break that down a little bit, hypertrophy means the size of your muscle, hyper-over-trophy growth, the size of the muscle cells. And to say that it's epigenetic means that, let's say you go through a stage of parenting where you do lose some muscle tissue. If you've been exercising consistently in that time period, maybe not as much as you're used to, and your muscles kind of get deflated and you're not really quite as ripped as you're used to, what happens is when you do start sleeping well and you can pick up your normal exercise regimen, those gains, as people like to call them, come back relatively quickly because your genes remember what it's like to be in the kind of shape you were before. The mistake many people make is they're like, well, I can't work out like I was before, so I'm just not going to work out at all. And what they do is they end up deconditioned instead of maintaining some sort of conditioning so that it's easier to bounce back in the long run.
Yep. And I think, like you said, 30 minutes, you can fight 30 minutes, even if it's once or twice a week, let's say, 2 30-minute full body sessions, do some squats and some back rows in one, do some bench presses, some deadlifts, and you're good to go.
Absolutely. And you just said it right there. Some full body compound movements with relatively heavy weight, as long as your form's good, can do wonders for you.
Yeah, that's cool. And like we've kind of already touched over the nutrition, but was there any when it came to obviously, trying to, because when you're sleep deprived, you're craving sugar, you're craving energy. So how did you manage? Like you probably didn't always make the best decisions, but how did you try and stay on track as much as you can when it came to making good nutritional decisions? Or how do you still do it now?
Yeah, great question. When you first become a dad, there's actually a few biological changes that happen, and the sleep deprivation doesn't help. And so basically you get a significant decrease in testosterone. It just happens. It's probably a good thing. You don't want the same amount of testosterone when you first have a baby as you did when you were an 18-year-old man, because shaken baby syndrome is a real thing. And when babies are crying and you're sleep deprived, you can't imagine what runs through your mind as a fix for the issue.
Yeah.
But that being said, testosterone takes a deep dive. And what happens in men especially is that serotonin follows testosterone, and serotonin is the antidepressant neurotransmitter in the mind. So when you are depressed and you see a psychiatrist, they'll likely describe you an SSRI, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. And so what that means is when you first have a baby, as a guy, you are in the perfect place to have low testosterone and low serotonin. And one of the easy ways to pick your serotonin back up in a exogenous way is to eat something sweet or to drink alcohol. Both of those things will give you a little boost of dopamine or a little boost of serotonin. And so that's actually where a lot of the sweet cravings get dads, especially, is that, the baby's born, I'm kind of sleep deprived. I'd like a little boost in energy anyway, so I'm already craving sugar, and I don't feel so hot about myself or about anything, to be honest. And so, and that's a biological change. And so what happens is a lot of guys turn to what I call the B squared diet, and that's bourbon and brownies. And that's and that that actually creates the dad bod in conjunction with the actual biological changes of the testosterone and cortisol. And so when you put all those things together, I would say, one of the things that I did to mitigate that when I first became a father, and even since then, is, because bourbon and brownies, let's face it, those are fantastic. So, the first thing is getting on the same page again with my spouse. She's breastfeeding, right? So she has, a good, 1,200, 1,500 extra calories she needs to take in a day. And brownies are a fantastic source of calories. So it needs to be a communication with her. Hey, you can have your brownies, but they don't need to be here when I get home from work, right? Because I am not in a position to make intelligent choices about how many brownies I eat, right? And then similarly, the bourbon thing, just don't buy the alcohol. I would say for many guys, consistency comes from owning your environment more than it does from the discipline of the moment. And then the other flip side that I would say is, give yourself a little bit of grace. It's okay if every once in a while you need a sweet treat. Fine. A couple times a week, that's not going to kill you. Don't make it an every time at lunch or an every day after work kind of thing, though. That's where those habits really start to get ingrained in us. And then let's say the biology turns around. Your serotonin's back up, your testosterone's back up, the kid's sleeping through the night, everybody's happy, but you're still getting a brownie after work every day. And that's going to add up over the next several years.
Really good call there about owning your environment. I think that's a huge thing. Like, you just have to be responsible at the end of the day to, like you said, we're all going to have treats. We're all going to have things we enjoy. But if you've got those brownies in the house, if your wife doesn't eat them, you will eventually eat them. And if you keep going down that route, well, you're definitely going to have what they describe as a dad bod.
Amen. And my wife she can eat one brownie and be done with it. I can be like halfway through the pan and go, who ate all the brownies, man?
It's funny because you say that, like, everyone has certain trigger foods that you just can't keep around. Like you said, for you, it's brownies. For me, it's ice cream. But I can keep chocolate in the house for weeks on end. I might have one or two pieces here and there, but everyone's got the certain food where you've got to know, all right, this ain't coming to the house for me. Otherwise, it's all gone in the next couple of days.
Absolutely, well said. And I say the other thing I would throw out there is if you have to have a sweet treat, do it on leg day. Leg day, you're going to be in a nice state of EPOC, which is excessive post-exercise oxygen consumption, meaning you're going to need a lot more calories than you usually do. And so leg day, you have some good compound movements there, leg press, squats, deadlifts, things like that. And then, enjoy your brownie and know that, hey, this is going to go to good use and not to my love handles.
And I guess that means that no one can skip legs anymore if they want to have those treats.
Amen. You want treats? Hashtag don't skip leg day.
And so obviously, Alex, like your podcast is called Defining Dad Bod, right?
Mm.
So when we think of dad bod, we think, well, you think of the what was the TV movie? I'm having a blank now. Seth
We're
Rogen.
talking about Family Guy, Seth
No,
Rogen.
the Seth Rogen body, right? There was that thing about the dad bod for a while, but it
Mm.
sounds like you want to reinvent like what dad bod actually is, because what we're looking at the moment, what we perceive as dad bod, is not actually normal, isn't it?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about the biological changes that happen when you become a father. And so any young men listening to this, don't be like scared. Oh no, kids will mess up my testosterone. It's for a good reason, and if you do things right, you'll bounce back just fine. But with that biological reason, when we understand something, that liberates us from it. Meaning, if we know that those changes are coming and that, bourbon and brownies are going to be, number one on the menu, and that's the thing we want to go after, then we have a choice we get to make. And the choice is, am I just going to let this happen to me? Or am I going to make a conscious decision about what kind of body I would like to have as a dad? And so when I started the movement for defining dad bod, the goal was to say, okay, hey, you know what? Fine. You're dealt this hand. The very first episode of my show was Dad bod is not your fault. Okay. You're dealt this hand. Okay, fine. What are we going to do about it? What are we as dads going to do about it? What do we want our bodies to mean? And for me, when my son looks at me, I want him to see a guy who fits his workouts in, even though life can be pretty hectic, who takes him along and teaches him how to cook, even while his friends are eating chicken nuggets or going to Burger King. I don't know if you guys have that there, but that's, that's the thing people do here when they don't feel like cooking. And I want my son to look at me and say, I want to be like that guy. I want to be like that dude. And our tagline for a while was, be the hero that your kids already think you are. And so I believe that we have the opportunity as dads, and in this day and age with all this information and support around us, there's no reason that we can't be intelligent about what we put in our face and what we do with our bodies, so that we don't end up with a balding, fluffy caricature of a dad and call it dad bod. If you're going to call my body a dad bod, it's going to be because I made the definition for that.
And so how do you think like other dads out there can go about doing, do you recommend them just sitting down and think about what they really want to be for their child and also for themselves?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do a lot of consultations with dads, and it's funny, when I ask them first when they come to me, hey, what's your goal and why does it matter? I just got off the phone today with a guy who said, I need to lose about 120 pounds. I'm like, okay, why do you need to do that? Well, my doctor told me I needed to, or I'm going to die of a heart attack. I'm like, okay. So we dug a little bit deeper. And what it really came to is he didn't want to leave his daughter without a father. And so I'm like, all right, we need to reframe this completely. You can't say, I need to lose 120 pounds because my doctor said so. It needs to be, I need to get my life together because if I'm going to be around for this girl, I hope to pass on something worth having to her. I don't want to pass on my weight issues. I don't want to pass on my nutrition issues. I don't want to pass on my exercise issues. I want to show her how to make this work. And I want to be there to see her make it happen. And that really, for dads, and I mean parents to begin with, for many parents, your kids are your number one motivation. And when you really can tie yourself to that, when you can tie your decision to eat brownies after work with whether or not you're going to be here for your little girl, that changes everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's funny you say that, because everyone's going to have a different why at the end of the day. But this is what I actually talking about the first thing I read about in my book is that you've got to figure out what your why is. Do you want to be there for your daughter's wedding, walking her down the aisle? Or do you just want to be for you, be the hero to your child, right? There's no right or wrong answer, but you've got to have a defining reason there for the reason you are doing something, for the reason, you're trying to lose fat, the reason you're trying to be healthier. Because sure, someone can say, hey, you're overweight. And you're like, oh, I want to lose weight because my friends told me. I mean, yeah, okay, sure. But if you don't have that internal reason, you don't know why you've dug deep to go and do this stuff, it's so easy to go, fuck it, I'm going to have the brownies and bourbon, or I'm not going to go and work out today. I'm just going to sleep in. So you've got to find that deep defining why.
Absolutely.
It's really so for you, apart from kind of being the hero to your son, is there other reasons why you're doing this movement of defining dad bod?
Yeah, my fitness journey I could tell you my whole life story, but to keep it nice and short, my fitness journey actually revolves around getting injured a lot because of a genetic disorder that I have. So I have a genetic disorder called Ehlers-Danlos, and Ehlers-Danlos is hypermobility. My tendons and ligaments don't do their jobs very well. So if you're listening to this, stick out your tongue and try to touch your nose with your tongue like this. Most people can't do that. You're close, but not quite. So if you can do that, that's just one of 12 symptomatic ways that they diagnose this kind of thing. There's also a genetic test for it. But what it means is I spent a lot of my life dislocating my ankles and ruining my hips and dislocating shoulders. I used to hang from the monkey bars as a kid and my wrist would pop out of place.
Oh.
And I didn't, yeah, it's very painful. And so I lived with pain and injury a lot. And what was crazy is I was pretty athletic. I ran track and I played Frisbee with my friends and whatnot. And it was weird because I was always injured and I never knew why I was always rehabilitating myself. And so in my early 20s, when I found out that, hey, this is this thing that you have going on, it really doubled up my motivation and my efforts to stay in a good shape for myself, because I have family members who have struggled with this, and I've seen other people who struggle with this, and there's not really a good course for it. It's pain pills and a lot of time spent on the couch not enjoying yourself, and so for me, fitness truly is life. Fitness truly is mobility and keeping myself on the straight and narrow. And so I've worked to overcome this obstacle for myself. And then when my son was born, it was like, hey, I want to pass on this health and fitness that I have. I want to pass this on in his life. I don't want to just be the guy who, well, my dad works out a lot, and so, sometimes I do sports with him. I want to bring him into it. I want to teach him how to cook. I want to teach him, what a deadlift is. And I want him to enjoy sweaty sessions in the garage gym with dad. So, and I want to be the dad who can do backflips on the playground when the other dads are, spending time on their cell phones. And I'm like, nah, you guys should be playing with your kids. They're only little once. So anyway, that's the kind of dad I want to be. And my fitness plays directly into that.
Dude, that is very inspiring. That's a really, really cool reason. And it clearly I can't think about how to relate to you, because obviously I don't have kids, but that is a really, it's made me think about what I want to be, a role model for when I do have kids. Just thinking about those things, they're only little once, and I want to spend as much time with them as I can, and also show them hey, you can do stuff with dad. And so you give them, you give them things to learn as they're a child, so they can apply it to their own life when they get older and they have those good habits ingrained.
Well, absolutely. And then from a psychological perspective, there's actually a lot of good research that talks about rough and tumble play with dad and what it does for kids' socialization before age 4. And, just to summarize the research, you can go look this up. It's pretty fun. I can send you some links if you're interested. Yeah. But playing with dad, fighting with dad, and wrestling in the floor, it does a few things. But two of the main things that it does is it actually keeps kids from developing attention deficit disorder. So I don't know how it is in Australia, but I know here in the States, ADHD is on the rise. And a lot of times the only course for a child, age 7 or 8, is to give them, an amphetamine, which is, keeps them focused, sit down, shut up, think about your work. And really there are a lot of good research studies out there that show if dad wrestles with you and does active things with you, this won't happen to you. You'll get better at focusing yourself, and your mind actually won't have a hard time jumping from subject to subject. And so, and additionally speaking, socialization in young children, actually at the level of playing games and knowing when to be compassionate and cooperative and when to be competitive, all of that actually starts becoming ingrained before age 4 with that rough and tumble play with dad. And so, you as a dad, you have an option. You either play with your kid or you don't. And if you don't, it's bad for them and it's bad for you, because, man, I have so much fun. It's so much fun to wrestle with my little guy and get the neighborhood kids on it and all that stuff. But also, that being said, you got to be fit for it, man. You never know when a toddler is going to sprint into the road and you're going to have to go after them, or you never know where you're going to have to bend over sideways and pick up the groceries while carrying a kid over your shoulders. And it's a very, very physical job being a dad.
I can only imagine. But That is, very key. And I think another thing when you play with your kids, it also gives you a bit of an excuse to play with toys and stuff again too, and just pretend like, no, I'm just doing it for the kid, not for myself.
Amen. My wife gives me a hard time that, I'm teaching him to share. And I was like, hey, Gabriel, it's not your turn yet. It's Dada's turn. And she's like, come on, man. I'm like, he needs to learn how to share. But truthfully, I'm just having a grand old time. He can wait for his turn.
Oh, that's very cool, Alex. So basically, if I could kind of sum what we've talked about so far, the first thing is you've got to have that conversation with your partner to explain what your goals are and find out what their goals are too, if they have anything towards the health and fitness side of things. Number two, when it comes to the time you actually can make for training, you've got a great podcast we can go and listen to about it. But there's also, like shortening that workout, doing full body heavy movements, not trying to aim to gain muscle or anything like that in the meantime, just to keep that strength, keep the muscle mass that you've got, and just maintain some overall health and fitness. Then when it comes to nutrition, again, you said, try and just like we always tell people, try and spend some time dedicated, whether it be a Sunday or a Saturday where you've got that free time to do some shopping, to do your meal prep, to plan out your week. It's not always going to be perfect, but a little bit of planning is better than no planning at all, because you never know what's going to come up, right?
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I guess the only thing I would add to that is incorporate your kids as much as you can. Your meal prep might have only taken, 30 or 40 minutes if you did it yourself. And with kids, it might take 2 hours, but hey, that's time well spent. They're learning something. They're spending time with dad or mom, and everybody's benefiting from it during the week.
For sure. And like you said, if you haven't got time to go to the gym, you can exercise at home. You can chuck your kid on your back and, hey, jump on my back. I'll try to see if I can do some push-ups, some squats or anything like that. The more, like you said, the more you bring your child into there, the more he's going to get that experience too.
Absolutely. And their young bodies are developing as well. They need to learn how they move and how you move and how it all fits together. My favorite workout when he was little and I didn't have a whole lot of space or equipment and I wasn't always able to get to the gym, I just grab a kettlebell, and it was kettlebell swings, push-ups, burpees, and air squats. And real simple. It was 10 of each one for 10 minutes and until I was done. So 10 of each one, 10 minutes, and you're done.
That's effective though. Definitely works.
It's powerful. Hits every single muscle in the body. It's a party.
Love it. So Alex, I know we touched on this a bit before, but there's one question I have for you, and it's why is your health and fitness so important to you despite the obstacles of parenting?
Yeah, we kind of touched on it a little bit here, but kind of recapping my story, personally for me, it's a non-negotiable thing. Unless I want to, turn into a joint degenerated person who can barely walk by age 45, then I don't have an option. That's something I have to do, or that's the kind of person I'm going to be in 15 years, 10 years, whatever. How old am I? Getting older every day. So that's an important aspect to me. And then also we've spoken about how, for me, it's important to pass on a legacy of health and fitness to my child. But in the broader scheme of things, one of the things that we're facing here in the Western world is with the rise of technology, being able to sit down and type at a desk all day kind of thing. I'm sure a lot of your daily life, even as a trainer, can be sedentary, programming and, catching up with stuff and doing this show, So
that's always standing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I've been sitting for a while. I need to stand right now. So with the advent of technology and how our lifestyles are changing in being so sedentary, and then also for many of us, and I'm not saying everybody, but if you're listening to my voice, it's likely that you're not starving right now, or at least not of your own accord. You can't find food anywhere, and so you're starving. So we have an abundance of food and very little activity happening. And I see this as a point in time where we really get to make a decision about what we're going to do with our bodies because of the world we live in. Either we're going to wake up 20 years from now and go, holy crap, I should probably do something about this. And many people are waking up tomorrow morning thinking exactly that. It's been 20 years of sitting around and eating too much, and now I need to do something about it. Or we can decide right now, hey, I'm going to live this life a little bit differently. I'm going to make an effort to get enough activity. I'm going to make an effort to exercise consistently. I'm going to make an effort to be conscious about what I'm putting into my body, when I'm putting it in my body, and how much of it I'm putting into my body. And then I'm going to pass that on to my kids. And the way I see it, Tyson, it's really important to me to live that right now, because we have an opportunity, starting with ourselves, to really change that for the world around us. And I think it needs to happen.
That is really awesome. it's taking that responsibility for yourself first, so then you can pass that along, like you said, to your kid eventually. But you've still got to be able to fit your own oxygen mask first, because if you don't take care of your health, you are not setting a good role model to your kids either. And if you want to be there for their wedding, if you want to be there for those times, you've got to start taking action, whether it be that small, like, just start with something small, right? Like, it's always about those habit-based approaches, but you've got to start with yourself.
Absolutely. Can't start anywhere else.
Yeah, I love it. Well, dude, this was an awesome podcast. I really, really appreciate you coming on today. So before you leave us, though, like, where can we find out more about you? What's going on in your world at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. We are extremely active on social media, so you can find us. Our official website is www.definingdadbod.com. And you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at the same handle, @definingdadbod. And then if you really love what we're doing, you can check out more about the story of the show, as well as some of our patron-only feed on Patreon. That's www.patreon.com/definingdadbod.
Love it. Guys, Patreon is a growing platform that you should really be on, because you're supporting people like Alex and like others to still get that message out, while at the same time, when you start paying for something, like, it's like $1. If you pay anything, you're making a payment. You're putting skin in the game to go and take care of your health and fitness. Plus, they get to release a lot of cool stuff they wouldn't be released anywhere else.
Absolutely. I say to my Patreon followers, for $1 a month, which is like your, one medium pizza every year for $1 a month, we're sending out, meal plans, workout programs. We're doing, patron only question and answer, things like that. So it's a pretty powerful platform to allow us to do what we do, and for people to raise their hand and say, hey, we support what you're doing and we want to benefit from it.
Oh, dude, that's cheaper than a coffee a day. So people have no excuse. They can afford an iPhone. They can afford $1 a day.
Amen.
All right, Alex, thank you so much again for coming on. Guys, go back and listen to it again, because if you want to definitely build up your proper dad bod, then we have dropped some knowledge bombs here that you can go and apply. So thanks again, Alex, and I'll speak to you guys next time.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate it. Now, I've got a special gift for you. If you want to learn how I managed to lose 10 kilos and keep it off, then I've got the perfect treat for you. I've got a free intermittent fasting cheat sheet that I share on my website that shows you exactly how to diet effortlessly with intermittent fasting and fit it into your busy lifestyle. And more importantly, this is the exact guide that I follow every single day that allowed me to lose 10 kilos of body fat and keep it off 4 years later. So head on over to www.tysonbrown.com.au and pick up your free cheat sheet today and learn how to fit intermittent fasting into your life and diet effortlessly. Once again, that's www.tysonbrown.com.au. Opt in for the free cheat sheet and I'm going to send it straight to your inbox for free. Until next time, speak to you guys then.